she's Mrs. Barack Obama. And what do you know about her, besides, now that you know who she is?
She's a lawyer.
Yes.
That's right.
And she's the mother of 2 children, maybe. I don't know exactly.
Yes, it's exactly true. You're right. And does anyone know anything more about the children?
No, she's two girls, but
Yes, 2 girls.
What she does, I don't know. What are she doing?
So the former title for what she is, of course, is that she is the First Lady. As you said, she's Mrs. Barack Obama. Yes, Professor Marston has the girls' names, Malia and Sasha. And I've never heard why they picked the name Sasha, Professor Marston. That's a very Russian-sounding name.
I thought so too, but I don't know.
But for a man, it's short for Alexander.
Mm-hmm. So maybe she's Alexandra.
Right. Yeah.
But they do call her Sasha. And so,
Alina, do you want to talk to us a little bit? What does the First Lady do? Could be in Russia, could be in America. Alina, what is the job of the First Lady?
I don't know, but they have special. They do special things. They go. Maybe First Lady. It is Michelle Obama.
Yes. So for example, I know that Mr. Putin and his wife are separating.
She should attend her husband.
So she assists her husband, right? And
yes.
What else would a First Lady do in any country? In the U.S., in Russia, what else might a First Lady do? She assists her husband. She advises her husband.
Yes, and she has him.
Mm-hmm. And what does she seem to be doing? She seems to be on a stage waving. What is she doing, perhaps?
Don't know.
Vlad, do you want to jump in here? What are some other activities that a First Lady might do?
I guess she can she can have she can play some of play very important political role in the government. She can take some post
occasionally,
I don't know.
Right?
Yeah.
Occasionally, a First Lady might play a formal role, but usually in America they take an informal role, right?
Right.
She will talk to the president. She will advise him. She will tell him her views. She can also make public appearances, right? Maybe give a speech.
Yeah, but if we, for example, wife of ex-president Clinton, Hillary Clinton, she has a very active political role in the United States. Because even in Russia, we heard about her quite often in the news blog, on TV.
Right, and so with her, now that her husband is an ex-president in particular, you know, she has played a very important role and a very positive role internationally because she became our Secretary of State, right? Our Minister Иностранных дел. And so Hillary Clinton played a very important role, but when she was First Lady, she had mostly an informal role, as advising or assisting the president. It's very hard to be First Lady because you're very visible and it's very public, but in many ways you don't hold a job. You don't have a formal position. Now, First Ladies have causes, right? They advocate for things. So, for example, First Lady Michelle Obama, advocates for healthy eating and healthy lifestyles. And so when she gives a talk or a speech or goes into public, frequently she talks about how we as Americans could eat in healthy ways and not eat so much fast food. Konstantin, tell us about Russian First Ladies. Who did I hear the news broadcast that Mr.
We haven't First Lady.
Right.
Unfortunately, we have now First Lady.
Right. Now, but even before, earlier, was Mrs. Putin very visible? Did she give speeches?
I have never heard those speeches, but I heard that she somehow was connected with charity, with children's, with sick children, and she visited hospitals, but it was too rare. And she very rarely appeared on our screens.
Right, only very rarely. Very good. Yeah, so she wasn't very visible.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very nice. I think the role of the First Lady is more visible than the role of the Russian First Lady. And so we never knew, during the Soviet time, we always saw the leaders, but we never saw Mrs. Brezhnev or, Mrs. Andropov. We never saw the First Ladies in Russia.
They were not too visible too, and
right.
especially wives of our First Secretary or General Secretaries.
Right.
I remember that. Sometimes they appear on the radio, on the TV screens. Even Khrushchev's wife, Nina Petrovna, I don't remember exactly. And then Victoria Brezhneva, we saw her portraits only after her death, even after her husband's death. And the First Lady that was very visible, very often appears on our TV screens, it was Raisa Gorbacheva.
Yes, exactly.
And it was she was very unpopular because of she very often appears on TV. Even barely we hated her, and then we became to hate her husband.
Oh, yes, and he is not very popular anymore, right? Still.
Yes.
Yeah, he is very, very unpopular now. He was very popular in the West.
But I have heard that Nancy Reagan hated her too.
Hated Raisa.
Yeah, she was very, I don't know, бесцеремонная.
Unceremonial. Yeah.
ceremonial. Yes, Nancy Reagan took attempt to show her White House, and during this excursion, Ms. Gorbachev became as a guide, not a listener.
Yeah. So a very famous incident when Nancy Reagan attempted to show her around the White House.
Mm.
So here on the screen, on the tab that says Jackie O, here's another American First Lady. Who can tell me about this person? Who is this?
Maybe
Kennedy.
Yes, you first knew her as Jackie Kennedy. And Vlad, and after the death of President Kennedy, her name changed. Do you remember who she married after that?
Name?
Right, so when she was married to the president, she was Jackie Kennedy, and then she married, who did she marry after that?
I have no idea.
She married. Go ahead.
I think that I'd like to hear a reaction to these 4 pictures of Jackie. Some of these are when she was the president's wife, and others were later. What can you see about her?
Yes, how would you describe her? Konstantin, would you say that she is unceremonial, this person?
I don't know. It was before my interest to American policy.
Ah, yes. This first lady goes back 50 years, right?
Sometimes ago she appeared again. She was the wife of Richmond Onassis.
Right.
Onassis.
Exactly. And so we knew her later as Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, or sometimes Jackie O, right? Because she was married to Aristotle Onassis.
Mm-hmm.
And here I liked your word, right? Unceremonial. She's the opposite of that, right? She's very. What would be some words we might use to describe Jackie Onassis? How would you describe her?
I don't know. I have a obvious idea about it.
Katya or Alina, do you want to help us?
But she was pretty.
I know that she was icon of American fashion and style.
Excellent.
She was very beautiful and fashionable.
Those are exactly the 2 words I was searching for. Fashion and style. Very good. Perfect. Keep going.
And she likes
architecture, restoration, right?
Yes, and she saved a lot of history and business.
And very interested in, yes, historical buildings and other sorts of things. Very nice. You used another great word, Alina. She was an icon. What in Russian, what is an icon for you? How would you? This is an icon to describe a person. What other kind of icon is there in the world?
For me, for example, woman, it's very beautiful. It's very fashionable. It's proud woman. And
Yes.
she looks perfect.
She does. Very nice. Sergey, what are some other words we could use to describe Jackie or Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis? She's fashionable. She's stylish. What are some other words?
She has nice smile.
She does. Very famous smile. Famous for her smile. And I'll go back to this word, iconic. What a nice word. She is, for that period of time, for the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, she was just the icon of style. Sometimes we would call her the epitome of style. Epitome, the absolute best, the absolute perfect example of something. So I might say, if a student of mine works very hard, I might say he's the epitome of a hardworking student. You know, he's just perfect, a perfect example, the perfect picture of style. Some very good vocabulary. Professor Marston, what were your impressions of Jackie O?
Oh, very much. All those things that you have said. She was, that word style is very important. And as I put in the chat, before Jackie, people wore sunglasses to protect their eyes from the sun. And you will see in all 4 pictures of her here, she's wearing sunglasses, but it's a fashion statement.
Ah, love that phrase.
And she did something when she was in the White House. Coming out, when they first came to the White House, the Kennedys had a whole presence and style that had been lacking before that. It had been missing for a while. And so one of the things that I remember was early television, at least for me. She did a tour of the White House to show this place, which is the president's residence, and also it's the people's house where the president, the sitting president, gets to live. And she did some redecorating, but it has a museum quality to it, the White House, so that she made us feel as though we owned it. And I think there were a lot of young people of my generation who thought of her as really pointing the way to doing something much more consciously attractive. I guess I would say that.
And one of the reasons that we would say she has style is, I'm going to share a photo now that has the word president in the title of it. And can anybody tell me who these two are? This is an American president and this is his wife. Who are they?
Could you repeat your question?
Who are these people? Which American president was this?
Is it Howard?
Eisenhower.
Yeah, so there's President Eisenhower. Remember, he was president in the 1950s. And does anybody remember the name of his wife? She was known as Mamie Eisenhower. I don't know if that was actually her given name. It may have been.
I think it was.
Was it her given name?
Yes.
Would you say that this? How would you describe this couple? What words could you use to describe them? Vlad, what words would you describe to use to describe President Eisenhower and Mamie?
No. Old Spanish, classic.
Yeah, classic, old-fashioned, perfect. You know, they just seem like they're a little bit more historical, right? They're just older style, older fashion, and so he was the.
How about glamorous?
Yeah, would you say that she is glamorous or he is glamorous?
No.
For that time, why not?
Maybe for their time. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, maybe for their time.
Okay, no.
No?
That's just wrong.
Oh, come on, Professor Marston.
Hey, listen, I have in my possession from my mother a small lapel pin with diamonds and rubies on it, and it says, "I like Ike." So, and that was an iconic phrase for the time.
This was that they used with Eisenhower.
Yes, Ike was short for Eisenhower, and so we were fans in the home where I grew up of the Eisenhowers, and Mamie, this was such a sweet little old lady, and so I have that iconic pin to sort of symbolize that. Wow, that's cool.
Now
Excellent.
Okay,
We'll give her some glamour.
It's still not glamorous. I'm
still
sorry.
Not glamorous. Okay. Well, I'm going to share one more First Lady with you before we leave this today. And this one is a little harder to figure out who she is. Look under the tab that says Lady Bird. Which American First Lady is this?
I'll give you a clue. She's from Texas.
She's from Texas. So we hold her especially dear.
Bush, maybe.
Well, that's a good guess. The Bushes are nominally from Texas, but no, not. Her last name isn't Bush. We'll help with this one because this one's a little harder.
This is Bear Johnson.
Johnson, yes.
Yes.
Google and Wikipedia.
Looking at quickly. Yes, this is Lady Bird Johnson. And her given name was not Lady Bird. We learned from Professor Nero. It was Claudia. But from her childhood, she had the nickname Lady Bird. And so, yes, she was Mrs. Johnson. And she is remember that Lyndon Baines Johnson became president in 1963 when Kennedy was assassinated. And he was president through 1967. And then in 1968, Richard Nixon will become president. And they left the White House, she and President Johnson. They went back to Texas. President Johnson passed away in the early 1970s. And Mrs. Johnson lived for many, many years. She died probably, what, 2 or 3 years ago, Professor Marston?
Yes, if that. It was quite recent.
Yes, she lived in Texas for many years. And I want to put that word back in the chat again, of causes. First ladies frequently take up a cause. So Michelle Obama, her cause was healthy eating. And Laura Bush, her cause was literacy and reading. And can you guess from this picture? This picture has a big clue in it what Lady Bird's cause was. What was it that she promoted throughout her life?
Environment.
Say again?
Maybe something about environment.
Yes, you're exactly right. Something about the environment. And what is she surrounded by in this field?
Against the road.
Yeah, she's literally surrounded by wildflowers, by flowers, by the side of the road. She's not in a garden, right? This is not a formal garden. This is, wildflowers by the side of the road or in a field. And she was very, very famous for promoting the planting of flowers by the roadsides and in the fields of Texas. And in fact, there's a wildflower center in Austin that's named after her that you can go and visit. And in the spring, when you drive around Texas, I'm going to share one more file with you, and you drive down a highway, look at the tab called Texas Bluebonnets. This is what our highways look like in the state of Texas in the spring, because every year thousands of volunteers go out and plant wildflower seeds by the highway, and in particular, this is a very famous plant in Texas. They're called bluebonnets, and the highways are just covered in fields of bluebonnets, and it's a very, very beautiful scene, and we thank Lady Bird Johnson for that, and for her bringing this cause of wildflowers to us in the state of Texas.
It's a picture or it's a photo?
I believe it's a photo.
Yes, it's a photo.
It's a photo. And you look at it and you think it's so beautiful, it should be a painting, but it's not. You can literally go out and when you take your kids out, right? We have many pictures of my daughter in the bluebonnets. You take your kids out and you pose them for photographs in the bluebonnets. It's quintessentially Texas.
Bluebonnets are a kind of lupin, and I know
lupins.
that you have lupin in Russia, I know. And they come in, lupin come in various colors and sizes, and they're also fragrant. So when you go out into a bluebonnet field in the springtime, you're surrounded by this wonderful scent. They smell good. And there are now wildflowers are planted all along all of the interstate highways. And whenever spring comes, wildflowers bloom along the highways. And Lady Bird Johnson was responsible for making that happen. And we used to have lots of advertising signs, big billboards along the highways too. And she pushed legislation to have billboards banned very close to the edge of the road. So we now don't have big signs really close to the road. And she was a Southern lady from Texas, and one of her signature phrases was, I put it in the chat a little bit earlier, plant a tree, a shrub, or a bush. and we owe her a lot just to help the country be more beautiful.
And I mentioned that you take your kids out in the bluebonnet field. This looks like a little boy who's going to go out and get his picture taken in the bluebonnets. And you can see the field, they just stretch in the spring out into the distance.
And that picture is called Navasota Paul.
Well, good. We are going to pick up politics next week, so we'll come back to Michelle Obama and Barack Obama. This week we wanted to talk about TED Talks. I think last week you had a chance to go and spend a few moments with TED Talks, and this is a very, very popular website in the entire world, actually. And we had asked you to each prepare or talk about your favorite TED Talk. Has everybody had a chance to prepare one for today? Katya, have you had a chance to prepare a TED Talk for today to tell us about?
Yes.
Why don't we let you start? And so these talks are very short, right? Usually 5 or 10 or 15 minutes long. And they're always trying to give you a big idea or a new idea. So Katya, why don't you start us off? Can you tell us about the TED Talk you have selected? If you can paste the URL into the chat box, that would be wonderful. And Katya, why don't you do a summary for us, and then maybe we'll all go off and watch maybe a minute or two. We won't watch the whole video, but why don't you start us off and tell us about this talk?
To be honest, I don't know who is Michael Portner, but I chose this video. It spends 10 minutes, and this man, I guess he's scientist, maybe, I don't know. He talked about technology and why this technology wouldn't help us to solve real social problems. He explains that the technology in our life just for money, and politics not interesting to spend and give money for scientists to solve this problem, because world and the government makes money on this problem. And he said that our astronauts, USA astronauts, visited a moon, and when he was a child, he thought that after 10 years, people could visit Mars, other planet. But now he understands that government just don't want it, because if government interested in that, people could visit Mars planet, this planet, but they just not interested in that. Well, I guess it's a small summary.
Well, very nice. So what he's saying is that technology is a mixed bag, right? That there's some good things about it and some drawbacks, some bad things about it, and that politics always plays a role.
Yes.
So we could go, so we could go to Mars. We have the technology, but we don't go to Mars and put a colony there. And he argues that politics is part of the reason for that. All right, why doesn't everybody mute your mic and go and watch 1 minute of the video, just to get a sense of the speaker and see a little bit about it. Now, there's one thing I do want to point out about TED Talks. Very frequently, when you open the TED Talk, there will be a menu down at the bottom of the screen asking you if you would like captions or subtitles. So for example, with this particular video, give me a moment here and I will post a graphic of it. With this particular video, you can open the English caption. So I'm going to post a screenshot here. Can everybody see the screenshot on the screen of the TED Talk screen?
Yes.
Okay. Down at the bottom, it asks you to pick your language. And it's a little pull-down arrow that you can use. And people are translating the TED Talks into many, many languages. But what's sometimes very useful is you learning English may just want to open the English caption. So the person on the screen is speaking in English and the English words appear on the screen. Not translating into Russian, but keeping it in English. And this is wonderful, wonderful reading practice. So you listen to the talk, you turn on the English captions, you read all the words as they're being spoken on the screen. So why doesn't everybody go and play about 1 minute of this video just to get a sense for it? And Katya summarized it for us already, and then we'll come back to the class. So mute your mic, click on the link to watch about 1 or 2 minutes, and then we'll come back to class. All right. Well, thank you, Katya, for that good recommendation. Why don't we get everybody back into our room here.
If we were American children playing hide and seek, at this point, we would be yelling, "Oh, Yolly Out's in free," because those people who had not been found would know that they would win the hide and seek game, and they were in free. I'm going to try and put that down. I don't think I've ever spelled it.
I was going to say, good luck. I'm not so brave. Vlad, did you prepare a talk for today to tell us about?
Honestly, I thought that we will continue our previous topic about American experience, because I still didn't represent my presentation.
Ah, okay. Well, why don't you do that? Can you tell us about the American Experience video you picked?
Oh, thank you.
Good idea.
Should I upload the video?
How long a video is it? How long is it?
It's about 15 minutes.
Can you upload the URL instead?
Oh, yeah.
And put the URL in chat? I like your spelling, Professor Moulton. That's about the best guess I've ever seen.
Well, you know, it's what comes of being a medievalist. You have to be able to write down what you hear. You have that? Ah, there it is. Okay, Vlad, tell us about the video. What is it about, and what did you learn?
As I understood, this video about the early period of Silicon Valley, and especially about person who founded Silicon Valley. So William Bradford Shockley. He was a Nobel laureate in physics, and most people think that he was one of the talented American scientists in physics. In the beginning of his career, he worked in New York Research Center in Bell Labs. And the most busy time of his work, it was the time of World War II. He worked in the most very important American projects like nuclear projects. He worked with the Navy, with the U.S. Air Force and others. But the most important thing that he invented, it was about between 1946 to 1950. He invented the best thing in his life. It was the bipolar junction transistor. I don't know exactly how to explain. I'm not strong side in physics, but this is it's like a relatively new level of transistors which allow to make great technological advance. And since this period, transistors become smaller and smaller, and still like that. And then William Shockley opened his laboratory, Shockley Semiconductor Laboratory, and he hired the best and brightest people of America. And this company still exists. And so Shockley made a big contribution in technological progress in the United States and the whole world. So something like that.
How many times did you actually watch the video, Vlad? Did you just watch it once through, or did you watch it through several times?
I watched it about 3 times, maybe.
Okay. And did you actually use the captions there as well?
Yes, I use captions.
And so remember that I'm using 2 different words here. I'm glad you did. That's good. Remember that captions are the same language as on the screen. So you know, you listen to English and you read English, yeah. Right? That's really good practice. That's because your brain hears the word and you also read the word on the screen. When they speak in one language and the words appear in a different language, we call those subtitles. And subtitles can be helpful, but as a language learner, I think you're going to find that captions are a big help. You both listen and read at the same time, and it's interesting because it's on a video screen, and it helps you to move through the video and hear more and learn more. And I will tell you, your brain remembers more. It encodes language better when you read it and listen to it at the same time. So a very good video about Mr. Shockley and the founding of Silicon Valley. Very nice. Thank you. Thank you, Len.
Mm-hmm.
Alina, did you prepare a TED Talk for us today?
Yes. I chose video about Tracy Chevalier, and
can you go ahead and put the URL in the chat for us?
Okay.
Excellent. And so tell us a little bit about this video.
She talked about painting, and she told them when she goes to art gallery, she looked at pictures, and she chose a lovely picture, and she began to think story about this picture. Who these people? Why he or she? She tried to talk about these people, about painting. And it's very interesting. She chose three paintings. The first, the girl with a burnt onion. The second, Boris Katz.
Ah, yes, so the girl with a pearl earring.
Yes.
Which is a very famous painting, and who painted that painting? Who was the painter?
I don't remember.
Was it, is it a Van Gogh? I'm sorry, it's a Vermeer, right? So the painter is actually Vermeer. And what does she do with this painting, Alina? What is her big idea? What is her fresh idea?
She thinks about this girl. Who is she? First of all, she thinks that this is his daughter. But her lips was open, and she told that the daughter can't still can't have sexual reaction for her father, and he decided that it's service woman, and she started to think that the woman have a special room where he paints, but this room can't go his wife or children, but this woman can, and she thinks that they have some relationship because she was into his room. They were alone. She told that all their models wear wife's clothes, but this girl was her own clothes, and she wear only wife's their own.
So she thinks about the stories behind the paintings, right?
Yes.
And so her big idea is you need to think about or imagine the stories, you know. Why does this girl have a certain look on her face? And invent or think of stories or learn stories about the painter and about the models or the painting in ways that bring you into the painting just a little bit more. Very interesting talk. I will have to listen to that later and learn more about it. Konstantin, did you prepare a video for today? Konstantin, are you with us?
He has put a URL in the chat.
There it is. And Konstantin, can you tell us a bit about this video?
Just a minute, little trouble. Okay, my movie is point number 4 by somewhat Graham Hill. Maybe if you go to the link, you will find it.
Ah, yes. And what's it called? It is called.
I briefly talk about this movie. And
okay.
I think it is not very interesting to see how we present that film. It's a tale of young designer who told us about his point of view to spare things, I could say, that about stuff that мешает мешает.
Disturbs or
thank you. That disturb us, that take a place in our flats, etc. And he advised to refuse a spare stuff that we are worried about, that we are. So he offers a number of evidence that living is more when our life is more humble, when we live in more humble manner, doesn't reduce the level of our happiness. And then he put some advice how to live without many things, without how he quoted without stuff. He put an example that 50 years ago, Americans have 3 times less of the space for living than at present. And he asks if it is a place for living or it's a place for stuff. She decided that for stuff, because the industry produced many things that some of that are useful for us, some of that not very useful, some of that are unuseful, and he offers us his own philosophy to for example, he refused from a big flat and choose a flat with a less square and
square feet or square, less living space. Very nice.
And he offered that some things has a multifunction meaning. For example, the bed may turn to table, the wall transformed to furniture, and even he offered to combine a sink with a toilet.
That doesn't sound very exciting, does it?
Yes. So, but that's all. And he appealed us to refuse from things from I don't know, relation not spare. That we don't need really.
Right, extra space, so he calls on us to did Professor Marston have the phrase downsize? Yes. This is actually a verb in English now, right? To downsize, to, as you just said, Konstantin, to live in less space.
To downsize and to refuse from useless things. That, for example, old clothes that we didn't wear, and etc. But why I choose this film? Because first it was very short. only 5 minutes. And second, it was interesting what does mean the small space life in America and what does small space life for us. And he chose a flat at 400, I don't remember, about 400 square feet.
Square feet, yeah.
Wow.
So it is about 39 square meters. It is for one person, and it is it's not so bad, but for Russian it's only a dream. It's an unachievable dream.
So how big is your apartment, Konstantin? How many square meters is your current apartment?
About 60 meters.
60?
Square meters.
60 or 16?
60. 16.
60, yeah.
Too late, too little even for us.
And I like your question. That's a very interesting question. You know, partly you wanted the video for the idea, but partly to see what spaces Americans and Russians think about and how we think about them differently.
When I was visiting in Texas, I worked with my colleagues that work on this class, but I also, when that was finished, went to visit my daughter and her family. And in their neighborhood, there is a housing development where they're building new homes. And we went through one of those homes, and when we have a little extra time, I will show you the pictures that I took of a house being built. It is an enormous house, very big, and when you go in the entrance, the main living space is 2 stories high. And I took pictures because I thought you might be interested in seeing what it looks like. If we don't find time to talk about it shortly, I will try to post those pictures on Webiland, where I have been absent for a while. But I'm very interested in this idea, and the movement that goes with this in our country is called minimalism. And I'm very interested in it, but I have a lot of things. But Professor Smith can tell you that when I arrived at where he is, I had one small carry-on bag. So everything I needed for a 10-day trip was in a small bag that fits under the airline seat. And so we don't need a lot of things.
Well, we are just about out of time. I wanted to give Professor Marston just 2 or 3 minutes to talk about our next topic. Thank you. The reports were wonderful today. I have copied down all of your URLs and will want to listen to all of your videos.
So you will get an email with the assignment for next week in it. But this is the beginning of the module that we're going to do on politics in the next 3 or 4 weeks. And so the general topic for day 1 is the political culture of the United States, how it works, and the current stalemate in Congress. Before we can begin talking about this subject, we need to give you some basic information. And I didn't get everything pasted in the chat. I think there are about 5 different things. This is a little bit confusing the way they're numbered, so this is the draft that I've put up here. So as we begin to explore the basis for governing in the United States, we will look briefly at some basic documents and structures. For our first session on politics, which will be next week, October 15th, please read or listen to the following assignments. For each of these 6 items, be prepared to ask a question of substance, something you don't understand, or an element that you observe is different from similar political documents in your own country. If you prefer, you can write a short summary of each resource and be prepared to read aloud in class. So there are some videos. You'll look at the one that here is numbered 2.1, the preamble to the Constitution. And there is a link here to the whole preamble, but this is a video from a group of things that every school child grew up with in the generation just younger than I, called Schoolhouse Rock. And this is rock like rock music. So, so there's a mix here of several documents, many from the Wikipedia, and also there are these songs, catchy little songs. And one of them, Professor Smith says that he remembers from when he was a schoolboy, and that is called I'm Just a Bill.
Sitting here on Capitol Hill.
And so it's really a mnemonic device, a memory device to help kids remember basic facts. And I thought you might be interested in the ones that pertain to government. So what I hope that you will all do is either write a synopsis, just a short summary of each of the readings, and they're not all here, or have a question of substance about them. And this will be lay the foundation for us to be able to understand what is happening in Congress now that makes it so hard for the government to function. Indeed, our government is shut down now, something I'm told no other country can do and still keep running. So that's what we're going to talk about next week. And you should get an email either later on today, I know it's much later for you, or else first thing tomorrow. If you don't, please let me know, and I will endeavor to post it or get it to you in some other way. Do you have any questions about that? Well, I really missed meeting with you last week and the week before, and I'm delighted to be back, and I thought this was an excellent session today. So
thank you all. Very good session. I agree with Professor Marston. And have a good week, and we will talk to everybody next week.
Goodbye, and thank you.
Have a good week. Talk to you next week then.
And Professor Smith, I will touch base with you a little bit later.
Sounds perfect. I'm going to run to the provost, and we'll be back on chat in a bit.
Okay. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye.